I think that part of the work that I have been called to do is not just help a woman through an unplanned pregnancy. Life is so much more for them than their unplanned pregnancy. Their unplanned pregnancy is a defining moment in their life. And during that time period, it's because of that pregnancy, that she and I have been brought together to be able to help meet her exactly where she's at and help to serve her during that period of time and offer her options, one of which is adoption.
Well, welcome back to the Family Building podcast. And tonight we have a wonderful guest. Her name is Michelle Dettman. And just by way of introduction, Michelle and I have been doing adoption work together for, close to 30 years. And I want to just start by saying, and I cannot be more passionate about this, and Michelle knows because I've said this for years, we need to duplicate Michelle Dettman. We need to duplicate her heart. You know, the key thing in adoption that we see at Family Building and the cases that we've done together is how well we love and respect and honor this hurting world. I mean, adoption doesn't happen because people's lives are great. They're actually at a point of devastation. They're dealing with great crisis in their life. And so when adoption is an option, we come at them as professionals and agencies, but Michelle Dettman and the work that she's done with birth mother and expectant mother support has been absolutely invaluable. And my hope is that this podcast and what you're about to hear with Michelle is something that would attract you, if you're an adoptive parent, to have Michelle or one of her team involved with your adoption to help minister to and walk with that birth mother and birth parents through this adoption. That if you're an expectant parent, that you would hear Michelle's heart and that she would encourage you to consider adoption. And so we're just so excited to have you, Michelle. Welcome to the podcast. Can you give us a little snapshot of your background?
Yes. Hi. Thank you, Ted, for having me on your podcast. I'm excited to be here. This whole journey began for me many, many years ago, when I myself became pregnant when I was in college, and I was not married, and I was working full time, and that's how it began. I had been raised in a Christian home, and I knew that this was not a great situation for me, and it was not how my family had raised me. And I found myself in that situation, and I really wanted to be able to provide answers for my parents when I went to them and to tell them I was pregnant. And abortion was not part of my thought process at all, but adoption was. And I was 20 when I became pregnant. And so I went to a Christian agency in my area and had this thought and expectation that it would be a warm and loving environment. And that is not what I experienced. And but from that experience, I will just say this, that though I did not move into an adoption plan for my child based on that one experience, the Lord allowed a seed to be planted during that pregnancy that had me viewing the world around me and other women and other girls who were in my situation. And I realized that there was a need. And so I ended up parenting my child with the help of my family, continued with school, and years later ended up working in an adoption, with an adoption service. And the flip side of that was I saw adoptive families being taken advantage of. And I think that anytime there is an industry where there's so many emotions involved, that people can be taken advantage of. And adoption is one of those situations. That's why it's going to be really important if you're looking at adoption, either from a birth parent or an adoptive family perspective, that you deal with the right professionals. Um, so from there, I knew that I could not continue working with that service. And I really just prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And I loved working in adoption. I loved working with expectant birth moms. And the Lord just moved me to begin my own ministry. And so I did that and had that for several decades. And I continue to work in adoption now. And I've worked with Ted for so many years. And I love partnering with their team in helping adoptive families and birth moms through the adoption process. So,
Well, we've got, let's just look at the structure of adoption. You've got, of course, the adopting parents. Many times you have an adoption agency. There's always some type of agency involved. Some say
yes.
sort of social worker, whether they're with the state, whether they're with the private agency. Then, of course, you've got lawyers. And I honestly believe that everyone, I mean, almost everyone, there's always a few bad apples in every industry, but I think that for the most part, those that are called to adoption and are working in adoption have a good heart for what they do, and they're passionately called for what they're for what for what they're doing. But the quality and the heart behind those professionals is one thing that is exposed in us. I mean, we hold ourselves to a very high standard at Family Building. We as lawyers want to be as empathetic and compassionate and honoring these birth parents, and I use that word broken
Mm-hmm.
in a very respectful and honorable way. Again, they wouldn't be placing their child for adoption if they weren't hurting. And so,
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, at the end of the day, as a lawyer, I cannot handle the amount of emotion, the amount of brokenness, the amount of healing, the amount of support. I mean, paying for, a transportation, getting to the doctor, getting those results, getting medical records, sitting down and taking all this information that the agencies and the law requires. And the agencies do their very best, but there is a massive gap, in my personal opinion and my observation after 38 years in adoption, that we are not caring enough, nor can we ever maybe care enough for the birth mother, who is
Mm-hmm.
the most hurting person. And so I'd like you to share some of those stories. I could tell a number of them with you, Michelle, but I want you to share some stories of what that looks like. I know that you've been under bridges, you've been, oh my gosh, you've been out in the middle of the night, you've driven, you've done some crazy things to support sometimes the craziness that goes along with adoption. Can you share some of those stories?
Yes, I can share because I have a deep love for the women that the Lord has allowed us to minister to. And I can say this with full confidence that a woman who is moving into an adoption plan, who is making the decision to part with part of herself, um, is not a decision that is made lightly, is not a decision made out of irresponsibility, and does not lack love. These women are convicted to make the best and the right choice for their child because they're not in the right circumstances in their life that they feel in this moment to be parent to parent that child. And it, I was a college girl coming from a wonderful family who was just looking for stability for my child. Many of the women that we deal with do not have that family support. They come from broken families. They come from no family. They come from homelessness. They come from a place of addiction. They come from all different walks of life that we cannot even imagine living. And so, I mean, some of the women that we have helped, yes, I mean, Ted, you talk about a bridge. Yes, I had one of our young women or young birth moms who had had a devastating um, run in with Child Protective Services within her own life. And because of her life circumstances, she realized that um, she could not parent a child. And so she began to make an adoption plan and then decided um, that she wanted to keep the baby. And so she was hiding out under a bridge and went into labor and had the baby there. And, they were trying to get to her. Well, that's very dramatic, but that is really actually the case. And she ended up, yes, they brought her to the hospital. She moved forward with her adoption plan. There are so many emotions involved with that. And there was just addiction that she was dealing with. But I want to tell you that all of these years later from that situation, I just talked to her last week and
Wow.
I maintained contact with her. She no longer is living under a bridge. She has an apartment. She actually is a drug counselor at a
Wow.
drug place. Yes. In that same place where she had her baby and placed her baby, she now is a drug counselor. And who better to understand those in that same who deal with those issues than her. And that's what we're called to do with the experiences that the Lord allows us to live in our life, to be able to minister to others who have experienced that or are experiencing it. There's a place of legitimacy that God gives us as we minister to others with things that we've experienced. I've dealt with women who are um, dealing with being human trafficked, who are selling themselves in order to, I mean, it's a terrible situation. And yet they're in that position and they're not going to get an abortion, which you would think that somebody who is in that situation, that would be the easy way out for them. No, there's love and there's conviction in their heart for their
You've helped
child.
some of those ladies get into a safe environment and get away from the trafficker, haven't you?
Yes.
You've kept
Yes.
birth mothers from maybe having a child out in the wash or literally on the streets, haven't you?
Yes.
You've picked them up in the middle of the night and gotten them to safety.
Yes.
And you've been there waiting at the jail if they're in jail to receive them when they get out of jail, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
you've rescued women that have been in very abusive, life threatening circumstances, and you've gotten them into a safe place, right? And
Yes. Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and I just want to say, it's just again from a framework standpoint, with all due respect to the adoptive parents, are typically our clients. Um, I think my job is to introduce them to this world. Clients who are adopting are not used to. They don't have relationship with people that are. And I'm not saying every birth parent obviously is hurting that bad, but it's hard for them to imagine. And without having a birth mother coach, and that's the language you use, Michelle,
Mhm.
a coach like you, a life coach, which you're actually a certified life coach,
I am.
someone who really loves them and is advocating for it, isn't doing this for money. In fact, I'm going to plug you, right? Give a plug for you. Michelle, of all the adoption related expenses, is probably the least expensive, and I would say as valuable or more valuable than any service that is happening during the adoption. Because if you cannot care for the birth mother, I mean, she's carrying the next generation. And so, um, oh my gosh, I can just think of so many times when I'm in awe of you, Michelle, and just like, how do you even have the capacity? You've had so many run ins at the hospital with
Mhm.
staff that are trying to intervene into the adoption, right?
Yes. Yeah.
The birth mother whose parents, she's young and on their insurance, and she doesn't want them for privacy reasons to know that she's giving birth and placing the child for adoption, right?
Yes.
It's almost unimaginable the impact that you've had on these women's lives as they have wrestled through and contended to get this child into a stable, loving home, called
Yes.
adoption. And
Yes.
so it's just very difficult for the adoptive parents to navigate, or the lawyers, or the agency social workers to navigate all of this
Mhm.
additional support. How many women have you worked with that have nothing but the clothes on their back and barely have any clothes on their back at all? and you're
Correct.
going and taking them shopping to get them something decent to wear, right?
Well, yeah, yes, and that is true. I'm not. It's just part of it's part of the work that we're called to do. And but yes, I think throughout the years there have been probably, you know, we've helped probably hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of women. But um, each one is important. They're not just a number. So each one, each woman is just there's value to her, and she may not have felt value at any time in her life, but we want to honor her, and we want her to feel valued during this process. And so many of them have been hurt in life by those who they should have been able to trust. And so sometimes it takes time period of building trust, and for them to understand that we are really truly trying to help them and their baby. And so
How often is it, Michelle, where you, because of your Christ-like heart and your
mm,
sincere connection to them and the true motives of your heart are being seen by them, see you as one of the safest, kindest, nicest persons they've ever met in their life?
um I don't know, Ted.
Don't be shy.
Yeah,
But
I
I
know. I
would
think that
the
yes.
majority of women that you work with, isn't that safe to say?
What was that?
I would venture to guess that it's the majority of women that you have worked with that see you as that person in their life.
I think that part of the work that I have been called to do is not just help a woman through an unplanned pregnancy. Life is so much more than about so much more for them than their unplanned pregnancy. Their unplanned pregnancy is a defining moment in their life. And during that time period, it's because of that pregnancy, that she and I have been brought together to be able to help meet her exactly where she's at and help to serve her during that period of time and offer her options. Um, one of which is adoption, which is an important option for them to understand and be educated about. Um, but what happens beyond that pregnancy, beyond that placement? There's still a need there where they are in need of emotional support, um, a prayer warrior, a mentor, somebody who can help them to um, set goals for themselves. And I feel very blessed to have been beside some of these women at their wedding when they've gotten married, or to go to their high school or college graduation, or to be present for the delivery of a baby after they've gotten married, when I was there present at the delivery of a baby when they were placing that baby for adoption. To be a coach in by my definition is not just a birth coach, not just a life coach. It's all encompassing. And so yeah, it's an honor to be able to continue to mentor them and develop friendships with them afterwards.
Well, just another shout out to you and another compliment to you, Michelle. For those who are listening to this, I want you to listen very closely to what I'm about to say. So, Michelle, for a very little cost in the adoption, I mean, relatively speaking, is doing the hard work in connecting these people, the adopting parents. She's going over their birth plan, the hospital
Mhm.
plan. She's physically there. She's holding her hand. She might be there actually at the time of delivery, coaching these women as they give birth. Although that's not her role, but she's been thrust into that role.
Mhm.
But she tells these women, and this is what I want you to hear: I am a life coach, and I will be your life coach for the rest of your life. And so we have never heard that in adoption across the entire United States. I've never met anybody like you, Michelle, that has committed their lives to another human being because they've given life to a child and placed that child in a loving home, that you said, I will always be there. So in this closing minute or so, can you tell us what what, now that that's been established with the birth mother, you have what you've called before victory calls. Can you give us
Yes.
a couple of examples and tell us how that is that you remain in their life for the rest of their life?
Yeah. I think I think that everybody loves to hear, an "atta girl," or "I'm so proud of you," or "let's pray you through this so that let's see what God can do." Um, you do, and yes, so that's who I continue to be in their life, and so I've seen so many successes, marriage, uh, ending of addiction, um, getting out of toxic and terrible relationships. Um, my gosh, the list goes on and on. But the truth is that I am so proud of them that um, we just had one of our girls that you helped me on that case, Ted, where she placed her daughter, that she had fought to get out of the system in order to place her baby with a family that she could choose, which she did. She just graduated college and now she wants to become an adoption attorney. And that was because of you and I talking to her. So, um, yeah.
Well, that's great. Michelle, I thank you for this time. We're going to do another podcast with Michelle. We're going to kind of go a different direction, but we wanted to, you, the audience, to hear her heart. If you're adoptive parents, if you're an expectant mother, if you're someone who's interested and have a heart like Michelle and would like to engage in this world that's struggling, if you want to do something to lower abortion rates, keep kids out of foster care, and help build loving families, we want to connect you with Michelle. We're going to talk more
Yes.
about that on the next
Yes.
podcast. So, Michelle, we thank you. We love your heart, and I can't imagine what your treasure in heaven is going to be like.
Goodness.
So, we're going to see you on the next podcast, Michelle, and we hope to see you, the audience, in our next podcast. Thanks for joining us.